Hi guys, welcome back. It's been a while. I haven't been active for some time now because a few things happened a few months ago that had a significant impact in my life, and it's been very challenging. I had an accident in February on a Friday night that I was preparing for a wedding the next day, and the accident happened, and I'm trying to wrap my head around how it happened. And of course there were factors that caused the accident, but then it happened, and it was a near fatal accident. It was I don't know how to explain it. Hold on, let me position this well. I hope it's better. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but at a point I lost control. Of course, there were external factors and internal factors that caused the accident. Thankfully, nobody was involved. Of course, there were cars on the streets. There were cars moving, and there were a few. I don't want to go into details of how it happened and all of that, because I really do not want to talk about it yet. But all I can say is that God saved me. God delivered me. He spared my life. Because at the time it was happening, when I lost control, my mind was just blank. I didn't know what I was thinking. I think at some point I was like, whatever happens, happens. Whatever can come, can come. That was when the accident was happening. When I lost control, it was, it actually span on the road. It wasn't a collision. It wasn't just veering off the road. So within that whole period, I was not in control of the vehicle. It just turned, it span, and it veered off eventually off the road, and it hit an electronic gate of a company, because there was a large space before the gate. And so I think both sides of the car, the back side, the front side, all of these things were happening while I was in the car, and all I was thinking about was whatever should happen should happen. If this is the end, then it's okay. I didn't know, because as I was in the car, I knew the car was just hitting things. I didn't know what it was hitting. I didn't know what it was going to hit next. I didn't know which side of the car would, whatever. I didn't know what was happening at the time. So the airbag from my end, that's the driver's side, and the passenger side in front were deployed. And so the car came to a still. I still wasn't sure what to do when the car came to a still. I didn't know what was happening on the outside. I think what prompted me to open the door was the smell. So I perceived the smell, and that prompted me to just come out of the car. And of course, people came around to help me. I had to eventually get my stuff from the car. I came out, there was a scratch on my body, but when you look at the vehicle, I think when I was not there, because later I had to be taking off that site, people were asking questions. Where is the person? How are they? Were there any casualties? Was anybody injured? And all of that. And if you look at the passenger side in front, it folded. I don't know what would have happened if anyone was sitting in the car at the moment. And so all I can say is that God saved me from that accident. He literally protected me and spared my life, because anything could have happened. And yeah. And so I'm grateful to God for my life. I thank Him for keeping me and preserving me until now. And so after that period, we had to report the entire incident to the police. So they came around and checked everything. Well, I wasn't there when all of these things were happening, because I was in the hospital doing a checkup, making sure that I was stable and okay, and I could go home. And so I went home that night. I was fine. It's very funny and interesting, because While I was dealing with, so after some time, I had to work on the insurance. Thankfully, the car was insured, it was comprehensive. And so it really helped a lot. And that is why I would advise anyone to go for the comprehensive option when you want to insure your vehicle. Make sure that it's comprehensive because you can never tell what will happen. So always make sure that you insure your car. So we had to deal with all of those things: insurance, the police, and can you imagine? I was detained unlawfully when all these things happened. I mean, we had to make a statement at the police. So, but that was after. That was like weeks after the accident. I went back. Had to make some statements here and there, and so the car can be taken care of by the insurance company. And they had to unlawfully detain me so they can exploit. I'm sure some of you understand what I mean. And so I think an inspector actually saved the whole situation from the exploitation system they were trying to create, just to take some money and all of that. So I think that part was sorted. But the fact that I was detained, well, when I say detained, I was put just behind the counter. There were no handcuffs on me anyway, but I was just put behind the counter, and I was asked to call a relative to stand in for surety. I think that was what they called it. And a whole lot. So the inspector came around, saw that nah, this is not right, and so he had to step in to get me out of that place. But it was so frustrating, and so it was just so frustrating because already I was dealing with a whole lot of issues after the accident. Now you're trying to put me in a state where just to frustrate me and take money from me. And so yeah, I really appreciate that effort from that investigator, not an inspector. He was an investigator, so he came into stepping. And yeah, I think eventually everything was sorted, and the insurance company took care of everything for us. And so yeah, I'm back on the road. I'm okay. But even before that, I had to deal with it was, like I said, it was a very difficult season. It still is because I'm not there yet. I have not recovered 100%. Sometimes I get these flashbacks, and I think about it, and of course I'm grateful to God. Always reminds me of the fact that I do not own my life. Someone is in control of my life. At a point where I completely lost control, God was entirely in control of the whole situation. And that reminds me of the fact that God is always watching over us, and he's always protecting us, and he's always ensuring that we are fine. He keeps us away from the snares of the enemy. God spared my life in that situation. But there are a few things I would also like to mention with regards to the accident happening. I would always advise that if you drive, especially, you should always wear your seat belt, because when it comes to the rules, it was intact. But regardless of the rules that I followed, the accident happened. But it does not mean you should not follow the rules. Always make sure that you're following the driving rules so that you don't end up in a reckless situation that could take your life. I was wearing my seat belt because imagine the car spinning on the road and then hitting the sides, were hitting the gates and all of that. Where would your body hit? Like, anything could have happened if I was not wearing my seat belt. I don't know what would have happened to me, but because I was wearing my seat belt, I was stuck in my seat. And that was also one thing that kept me from many injuries that maybe I would have been paying its consequences now. So if you drive, make sure that your seat belt is always on, regardless of the distance. Make sure that you always wear your seatbelt, because I was just coming out from a runabout, and it happened. Another thing that we're being taught when we go for driving school is that do not panic on the road, because once you panic, it can trigger an action that could lead to an accident. But sometimes, so you can't tell because it comes naturally. Panicking doesn't come as a result of a decision. You don't decide to panic or to not panic. It just comes out as a response to something happening, something that you are not in control of, or you cannot control. So your natural instincts or your knee-jerk reaction would be to do something about it from the subconscious mind. And so, but we are still advised to not panic when we're driving. And so if you drive, always make sure that your seat belt is on, and also do not panic. I have been going through a lot of healing process after the accident. Getting back on track became just so difficult. All of a sudden, I broke down. I became so weak. I became so vulnerable. So many things happened. It was like a ripple effect. So the accident happened and it led to one situation to the other. And so it made my whole, it literally disoriented my life and everything that I was doing. I had many plans, I had many goals, I had so many things I wanted to do. All of those things just came to a halt because I was dealing with so much emotionally, psychologically, and mentally, and even physically. And so the reason why you may not be seeing me too active, or you were not seeing me very active the past few weeks and months, it's because of this basically. But I'm grateful to some of you who checked on me. Thank you so much for reaching out after noticing the silence for a while. And for those of you who prayed, supported me, counseled, guided, I am eternally grateful. I'm deeply grateful for that. Now I'm better by God's grace, and gradually I'm getting back on track. And there's so many things I want to share with you in the upcoming videos. We're still going to get back on our goals and our plans because the first half of the year is almost ending, or it has ended, and we still need to achieve our goals. If you follow me, you would know that one key thing that I'm very particular about is consistency on our goals, because every year we set new goals and our priorities change, but then at the end of the year we realize that we haven't really done much. And it's one of my desire to ensure that personally I'm able to achieve all of my goals, or at least 80% of my goals, and also to help others who would need some help. And so I have a few things that I'll be sharing with you in my next video. So the focus, or what I'll be focusing on the coming weeks and months, is to live a wholesome life, one that is rooted in Christ, to do his will, walk in his ways. Not only that, but also to take care of the body that he has given me, because I'm a steward, and to have to take care of whatever thing he has entrusted in my care. And then to also work in purpose. So 3 things: faith, wellness, and purpose. Thank you all so much. Stay tuned for more videos coming up, and I'll see you again. Bye.